Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. The thing about those, head-to-head gloves are off things is that you can never be certain that what you're watching or what you think you're watching is accurate, the way that you're sort of, surmising it. And such was the case with Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Because like a lot of you, I'm sure you've already seen it, I watched that little face-off, and to be honest with you, I didn't expect much from it. I didn't think I'd see a lot in it that was really worth talking about. But just for the record, I mean, here's what I think I saw, because sometimes what you think you're seeing isn't accurate. But the impression I got was, these are my impressions anyway. First of all, Ngannou, I thought came across as being extremely confident. Extremely confident. He did most of the talking, and he was very sort of relaxed and jovial, quite jovial. He did make a few statements, like he thought he'd knock AJ out. He was quite candid in some respects, because at one point he said, I think Ade Oladipo, who was sort of chairing this little chit-chat, he said, he sort of asked him about the 10-round distance. What about a 12-round distance? And Ngannou said, "Oh no 12 rounds." Basically he said, "I'm a novice, so 10 rounds or nothing. I can't do more than 10 rounds." And I thought that was a very candid thing to say. Of course, he's right. This is on believe it or not, he's on his second professional contest. Unbelievable that his first two pro contests would be against Fury and AJ, but I did get the feeling that he was very, very confident. His English is actually pretty good, but he speaks with a strong African accent, which means that, sometimes he's perhaps a little bit difficult to understand, but his English is good. And he expressed himself, I thought, very, very well. Now, in the opposing corner, so to speak, the opposing side of the table was AJ, and he had a real, what some might think was an intensity. He sort of stared. I did a lot of the time staring at Ngannou, and he wasn't sort of truculent or certainly wasn't trash talking. But there were a few, I think, revealing moments. What I think are revealing moments. One is that Ade Oladipo asked him, "Were you surprised that Ngannou gave Fury such a tough fight?" And he said, "No, I wasn't, no." "Really? You weren't surprised, AJ?" He said, No, he's a UFC heavyweight champ and blah, blah, blah. Big lad, hits very, very hard. All of this is true, of course. But no, I wasn't surprised that he gave Fury, a tough tussle, shall we say. Well, I think most of the world was. And I wonder if AJ is saying that because he wants to sort of, number one, wind up Fury, and number two, maybe make out that Ngannou is a lot better than a lot of people still perceive him to be, so that if AJ beats him, AJ can say, "Well, I beat a very, very good man," instead of what his initial interpretation of that fight was, which is that it was a circus act, a gimmick. And they mentioned this during the interview. It was meant to be a gimmick fight. And AJ said, "I initially thought this was a gimmick fight." But I did get the feeling that AJ was perhaps a little defensive, just a little defensive. Again, he did far less of the talking, which, considering it was in English, and Ngannou's English isn't bad, but you would think AJ would have something to say. But then he's never really been he's certainly never been much of a trash talker, and he's certainly not much of he doesn't really say anything particularly profound. Towards the end he mentioned, this is my journey and God has got it all planned out and all this sort of standard stuff. But I got the feeling that I didn't get the feeling he wasn't confident. I think AJ did look confident. He just seemed a little bit irate, almost like, "Why are you giving this guy a chance of beating me? during the conversation, Ngannou actually said, I think Fury has got a better, maybe not a better chin, but he recovers better. He can take punches better in the sense that even if he's knocked down, he gets up. Because at one point, AJ said, well, who hasn't knocked Fury over? If he's been down so many times, well, that's perhaps a little unkind to Fury because a lot of people haven't knocked him over. But Wilder knocked him over 4 times in 3 fights. And then, of course, you go back to Cunningham, who's a much, much smaller man. And if you're going to want to go way, way back, Nevin Pajic, and then, of course, Ngannou clipped him and put him on the floor. But Fury got up, and to me, he won that fight. I'm not someone who thinks Ngannou won that fight. I think Fury won that fight. So when Ngannou was saying, well, I think if I'd hit AJ cleanly, he probably wouldn't have got up, or he wouldn't have been able to carry on. Or that seemed to sort of slightly irritate Joshua. And maybe Joshua is getting really tired of people not giving him what he perceives to be his due. I mean, he is a 2-time unified champ, and he's fighting a guy who's having his second pro fight. And a lot of people are saying this guy can beat me. I suppose I'd be irate if I was in that position. I do expect Joshua to win this fight, possibly by a late stoppage, stopping Ngannou on his feet, or maybe the towel comes in or something like that. But again, I mean, you can't rule Ngannou out. I was someone who thought that the Fury fight would be a mismatch, would be basically Fury slapping him around and toying with him. And it proved not to be the case. So I just can't. I think Joshua beats him, but you just never know, do you? This is a very strange time in boxing that we're living through. But anyway, what did you think? Leave your comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you can do that. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Oh, and like the video if you liked it. Hit that like button. And yeah. Interesting. Am I reading too much into it? Am I seeing things that aren't there? What are your opinions? Leave them below. I'll have a read, and looking forward to reading them. Yeah, I'll answer as many as I can anyway. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.